Welcome back to Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes. We have a guest via Zoom. But that was something where I never imagined I'm going to talk to him about. Brother George Myvett, come in. Another here, you put your mic on, please.
Hold on.
I hear you now. How the morning?
It's a great morning, Every time I wake up, I give thanks. I want to say good morning to Belize, to the world. Everything global. Anytime I touch that button, it's gone global. So it's great to be alive.
Give thanks.
The topic this morning is?
The topic this morning is, I can't believe I have this conversation with you. When I think of you, I think of the marine sciences. I think of you as consultant for the Belize Federation of Fishers. The organization I represent, which it's about consciousness raising for the liberation of African people racialized as black people in Belize and globally. Part of the work where we do the environmental justice work, and so we partner with Belize Federation of Fishers. We have an ongoing monthly, we have to get two this month because we missed one last month, the Belize Federation of Fishers, the Belize Blue Bond Community Awareness monthly Zoom session, the UEF and BFF, that's how I know George. So imagine my surprise when I say George writes real good about African Emancipation Day on Facebook, and then he had to put icing for the cake. That never enough for him. No, he had write one poem inspired by the work where I lead on behalf of people. Remember, the first African Emancipation Day in 2014 was led or organized. It was the conception of Virginia Eccles, an African American sister who worked with WUB Educational Foundation for many, many years. And then it was her thought, it was her organizing, and then I come from behind, I put my fire upon it, and then I became known as the face and voice, but on a collective process, and we have to give thanks and praises to all the people who come before we. I remember UAF, that never the first set of Belizeans would do this. In 1888, 50 years after the legal ending of physical chattel enslavement of African people, Simon Lamb and a group of working class people, included women, gone to the governor and say, today the August 1st, and we represent the colored people of this country. So then I made the first one in 1888, and then UEF come along in 2014. So George, how does get on your radar? I am respect George. I am pleased, surprised. Tell me how this get on your radar. And what it get on your radar till it inspire for right.
Two things, right? Two things. It's a kind of secret that I write poems. I have 300 pages of poems that I have written. And at some point, I've threatened to publish. That's the first thing. The second thing is African Liberation Day, Emancipation Day. I was viewing the proceedings at Memorial Park, and I was trying to see if you were in the audience.
Hell no!
But I didn't see you. You were there. They mention a lot of people in relation to Emancipation Day, but they did not mention, as far as I know, they did not mention Yaya. And I said, like, really, as far as I am concerned, Yaya does her campaigns. And sometimes it's Yaya alone, sometimes who want to come along, but Yaya does what she does. She believes, she is committed, and she affects change. And I know all change good, but as far as I am concerned, all the changes that Yaya has dealt with has been good. It has been glorious. So if I had to name Emancipation Day, it would be, well, you say you're looking to change it, African Emancipation Day, a force of one. There would have been other people, but as far as I am concerned, Yaya, you have done your woman's job in terms of pushing the narrative and in terms of affecting change. One, two, something has popped up here.
No, go ahead. The XTV to show your poem.
That's the poem. I have to confess that when I write poems, I don't know how to. Yeah, you can ask me to recite one poem of script. I have to be reading the script.
No problem.
Yeah. So I give praises where praises is due. I believe that really I had an encounter recently, And I don't know, it was with a lady who I knew kind of casually. And for some reason, she said, "You black." And then she said, sorry. And I'm saying, but you shouldn't be sorry. Because when you say I'm black, you know what you do? You to bless me. So if you feel offended, maybe that's something in your conscience. Because I have always felt that I belong to the original peoples on this planet. And that is, in and of itself, is a badge of honor. Yeah, among other things, I wear many hats. Either the vice president of the Belize Bodybuilding Federation. And in bodybuilding, what you do is you stress the muscle. And when you stress the muscle becomes more resilient, it becomes stronger, it takes on a certain shape. So I'll segue into what has happened to our history as a people. You know, we have been abused throughout history for whatever reason. We are not the only ones, but when you talk to the Jews, first thing you hear about are 6 million dead in World War II, Hitler. Well, I don't know that, let me put this delicately. I don't think that we as a people have been very, very effective in terms of saying, well, actually, the more than, if you look at the transatlantic slave trade in and of itself, God knows how many people died crossing the deep, wide ocean. One, two, slavery in and of itself, especially in today's parlance, to put it gently, is a crime against humanity. What has happened, among other things, is the white power structure, especially in terms of slavery, has basically said, but these people that are dark complexion, that we uprooted from Africa, you know, they are not really human beings. As a scientist, science caught up with the false narrative. And when we got down to the whole issue of cell structure, and we went into the nucleus, and we counted chromosomes, what makes me and you, and what make me, you, and my uncle Donald Trump humans is because we all have 46 chromosomes, 23 pairs of chromosomes. And so there is no denial. It's not only that we are humans just like them, but we are the original humans. And as I said, we have been stress tested. You go to a doctor for your annual checkup and they tell you jump on a treadmill. When you come off, they blow. And sometimes the doctor will tell you whether or not the status of your health. For us as a people, we have been resilient, we have been robust, and we have been champions here. There's no doubt in my mind here. And you know why we're special? When you look at it genetically, when people say Africa, a lot of people think it's one country, but don't get me on the arithmetic here, but I believe that there's over 30 countries
54.
in Africa.
One is a continent 54. With 54 countries.
There you go, 54 countries. Africa is a continent with the greatest diversity. Why is this so, Yaya? As the original people, we have been on this planet the longest. And when you're on this planet the longest, there is the greatest exchange of genetic material. And so you will find, Yaya, that the tallest people on this planet are the Africans. You'll find out that the shortest people on this planet are the Africans. You'll find out that the smartest people on this planet, and no apologies here, are the Africans. If you doubt me, Google a brother named Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's a scientist like myself. We are the superlatives on this planet, and so from me, if you're looking for some apology based on my blackness, it's not going to happen.
What did woman me look like? What's that?
Well, she was Hispanic.
Okay, because because of the psychological trauma Black people have internalized it. So black people, identifiable black people, different shade of melanin, would I look for another person with darker skin and say, you black. So when you hear black people tell somebody else you black, that usually because the person with it tell black, darker than they have more melanin. But make I just put it in a context, and I did on Monday. The year 2025, the one Gregorian calendar. So the Christians then look for when Jesus born and come forward. There were lives, millions of people lived before then. So at minimum, one average we look for over 6,000 years, minimum of African people, first people from planet Earth. And who usually get one blind before Europe, the brother Ako Motota say, whether the co-host or Sunday Review, the Atlantic Ocean never enslaved nobody. So a part of decolonization is calling things appropriately. So majority European people enslaved African people from the continent of Africa for about 400 years. The harm not done yet, because you know, say African people still suffer. So the harm continues with colonialism, imperialism, neocolonialism. But before the European, and this is who get it blind, they had the Islamic enslaved trade will last over 1,300 years. You hear how long the Arabs they enslave African people, but you don't hear about the Arabs then. So I just want to put it in a context how much African people, nobody suffer. And I know nobody suffer, nobody pay the cost like African people, nobody. And so I really appreciate you taking it from the personal, because the personal is political. I said to the woman, like, you to compliment me, you to give me a blessing for say you black. But I want to make you tell her that, George.
We were having a conversation again about colorism, because I know about race. That's a you know, and I was relating to her that one of my colleagues, and you know, Belize people, it's coming across across our country. Nobody wants to be African. So why, you know, certain people come, yeah, they're not African. But when you say you're black, we look for shades. And I was making the point to her that you can't you shouldn't confuse colorism with blackness. One of the actually fields of us black people is that we look at our own and say, you know, black. Well, I'll give you a short story, a 10-second story. This person that I knew basically went west for Easter, and he never see himself as black. They went to a Maya Mountain Lodge, and I they call the lodge name La Cayo. You know, got to meet up from Canada, from Georgeville, as the world should know by now.
George from Georgeville?
It just don't say it. When this couple got into the pool, yeah, the swimming pool, apparently Guatemalans of the Castilian race, the Germanic people from Guatemala look like they like Cayo for Easter. When this couple got into the pool, the Germanic people and the Castilian people demitted the pool. They ran out of the pool. That's how bad it get. But nobody talk about anything. Yeah. Nobody. If you know they talk about it, that means it never happened. But for me, as somebody with a restless mind, I am like, well, really, when you look at where we are now in terms of consciousness, I believe that us black people in the West, in Belize, in the United States, etc., the West Indies, we have taken a step back. And in Belize, like me personally, in Belize, when you look at 1950s and 1960s, black people like me and you, melanized people, we were the majority in this country. And that has shifted, and it has shifted for various reasons. One of the main reasons is the mass migration to the United States. They say that in nature there's no vacuum. And so as the darker complexion people, just about everybody left, the country became Latinized largely by in-migration from El Salvador, Honduras, Guatemala. All right? And so now people that were not, they may have been whispering in their closet about racism and blackness, those people are out now basically expressing what they felt internally. You see this in the United States also, where the racists have come out of the closet. When you talk about racism, people say, hey, that Trump. It's not Trump, it's his enablers. It's 70 million people going to vote for the man. And that is not specific to the United States, it's across the board. And I am saying, well, we know what the problem is. And for whatever reason, in the 60s and 70s, and I always say this about Evan Hyde and Rufus X and a number of other people, when you looked at the 60s and the 70s, it was a time of great consciousness. Nobody never looked better than black people with a big afro and then bell foot, and everybody was kinsing and everybody was peace. You know, you knew the people who went away because they came back with a different perspective sometimes, but they always dressed well, they spoke well. Who went to the United States came back a certain way, and who went to the West Indies, the common thing that they had was an afro, and the common thing that, well, at least the people from the West Indies was a bush jacket. You know, slavery in the West Indies was a mite different from the United States, but it was a time of black consciousness. It was a time of real liberation. Emancipation and liberation are two different things. Emancipation, as I see it, is officialdom basically saying, you know what, institutionally, there shall be no more captive labor. Liberation comes from the mind. Remember where remember where Muta Baruka said back in 1983, sister, I was in Jamaica doing a first degree. I went to a place called Hellshire Bay, just outside of Kingston. And that's the first time that I saw Muta Baruka. She was in concert with Judy Moat, Marcia Griffith, and a number of other people. And this poem that he said, and I believe he said it in Belize maybe a year or two ago, where they took the chain off your feet and they put it on your brain. The work of emancipation is dynamic. It continues because until and unless you liberate the minds of our people for them to understand, you are blessed, you are strong, you are special, there will be no forward motion for us as a people.
I agree with you, George. And one big part of the conversation is that we need to study together. I did look, sometimes I bring I don't know where I want to talk about what I do up here, but I did look for particular statistics, I think from the 1800s. And then do it like, let's say, I could be wrong with the dates, right? But I'll look upon it. So let's say then look upon like 1851, 1861, 1871, 1800s. And it tell you the population of the country of Belize at the time. And then they broke down for you what part the people were made dead at Belize in the 1800s, what part them born. And from the 1800s, the majority of the people who made dead at Belize at that time, that me from cross the border. So one of the concerns I have is that when we talk about Belize, and that's why I don't agree with that statue in a battlefield park, because no Belizean never tell nobody that they want George Price statue there. George Price could never be the father of this nation, because the nation never started in the 1940s. If you want to tell the truth, go to the beginning. If any statue for in a battlefield park, it will be an African people. Respect is due. The Maya them in this region over 3,000 years before the Europeans then come. But Belize town, Belize city itself, no Maya people never depend. This a piece of land. So the African people, racialized as black people, build this. But this administration in particular, based on their history, are anti-black people. And I'm starting to look at things through an anti-blackness lens. Anything but black. So I know, and there are no state event when it comes to African People Emancipation Day. It was the state that enslaved our people. I know they have the position, the state, that they have the legal mandate because people vote for them. The Constitution that were enslaved document. The people of Belize never decide that. So that's why we have, and people throughout the Caribbean have the kind of separation we have. Because that out of the enslaver, colonizer mind, and then want us to just rubber stamp it. So how could I dishonor our African ancestresses and ancestors and go mingle up with the people that were enslaved there? How, Brother George? That's why I really have great value for the people of Belize. From 2014, that the people of Belize support African People Emancipation Day. 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 28 years later, the state decided they want to make it on public and bank holiday, I feel, for political reasons. And that's what co-option is. Then here come, and that's why, to tell you how deeply enslaved our people are, when the state make it on public and bank holiday, they had representatives who had the decency to approach me and say, yeah, I want to work with you. And I said, listen, I don't want to work with you because I don't trust you, but I'm giving you and blind. Before we even done the organizing, then betray away, I don't want nothing to do with it after that. I do apply for money for the cultural fund because I have a right on behalf of the people, because for we taxpayers' money. But then the state may need on blackface. And the organization where the second one in the country no have no trust and work with them. So any blackface one do. So the next group agree for be the blackface and continue agree for be the blackface. You see the problem, Brother George? Well, and I said things publicly. It's hard for us because the black people. But we have to be honest for have the hard conversations and correct it. So how once black people show me that I never trust you, you can't think so, you can invite me anyway, I want to come anyway, I don't trust you. You show me that I never trust you. George, one moment, George. We're going to take this call, then we're going to break and come back. Morning, quick call, kind of break time. Go ahead.
Powerful. Watch out, Naya. Good morning, bro. Morning.
Morning.
Love the conversation, man. I tell you, I'm proud of my blackness. You know why I feel so good? You're held with, as a black people, you're supposed to be proud of the color where you are. Who you know? We are the true people of the Bible. We are the real Israelis. We are the real Jews. You understand me? So honestly, I love the conversation, and I wish we could have, we could have sit down together and just vibes up and learn more.
Respect.
You understand me? Because right now, people, slavery done, boy. It's still, people still enslaved.
It's not done, brother. We mentally enslaved.
Yep, mentally enslaved. Yep, it's still happening.
It's not done.
Sometimes people tell us straight, why? If you're a young girl or you might find a bedroom, I tell her, well, here we go. I don't want to date no black girl. I don't want to date no black boy. You understand me? I want my color go higher. But we color higher, but we superior. We black color superior, so we the talk about. You understand me?
Ashe.
I'm proud of the color that I have, brother. I wish I could make me black and white black right now. I tell you, I'm proud of the color who I am.
Very respect the blackness, melanated people.
We are warriors, you understand me? But the true way to say the 1940s, come on. The black people, they should put the Mayan for the money.
Well, anyway,
you know what I mean?
Make a go, brother, break time.
Thomas Vincent Ramos should be going for the money.
Thanks for the call, brother.
Great leaders.
One love. Thanks, I forgot a break. Thanks for the call.
All right then, respect.
One love. George, stay there and come back. You got time, George?
I got time, man. I want to go for the rest of the day.
Listen to I know. We have George Myvett as our guest this morning by Zoom. We're talking about African people, racialized as black people in Belize. African People Emancipation Day, that 365 days. That's not one day. And what happened in the past have everything to do with how we as black people that Belize around the world live every day because of what happened in the past. Stay tuned, break time. Belize Morning Vibes, we have one conversation with Brother George Myvett on Zoom about all things African, racialized as black people that Belize. George, I find the document where I'm going to tell you about where I'm going to look for. And make I tell you know what he say. The time period of 1861, 1871, and 1881. And they tell you the countries where people may ban at the time. The majority of the people in 1861 were that Belize at that time. They're from the Yucatan. 9,870, no, British Honduras, they were part of the majority of my band. 10,937. The next majority of from the Yucatan, 9,817. In 1871, that means 6,069. In 1881, that means 4,088. The reason why I bring this up, that because we not study and know his stories, and I know that that time period in the 60s had majority African people racialized as black people. That is true. But we have to look back for come forward for say, when we people come here, they had more African people than European people. For sure. They did. But after the social war, what they call the caste war, the dynamics change as far as up north having one bigger population. So, but if we not study, then we can make the correction to colonize narratives. Beyond the shadow of a doubt, we have to recognize that Maya people were here. That's why private landholders at Toledo right now have major concerns. Because the Maya people win the land right case because they prove them there over 3,000 years and they have the Maya pyramid for show them there before European people come. Respect to Maya people, indigenous people. Now make a look for African people racialized as black people. Because we don't know his story. Like we know about Simon Lam on 10th of September. How we never know about Simon Lam on African Emancipation Day? Somebody decide it best for we don't know. And stick with the 10th of September narrative. Somebody decide that. So I just say, only the people want to save the people, Brother George. So I really, never from a position of ego, where I say, make I bring George, because George write a poem about me. That was incentive. But incentive from the point that if you not tell your own story, somebody else want to tell it, and they tell it how they want. Now, that the first time here today, what George say, he here, I never knew that Memorial Park then, because I don't give them no energy like that. That you never hear them call my name. And I had said on Monday with 7 News that they stop cover African people Emancipation Day from a UEF perspective, and the last time they do it, they water it down. Now, that's the way I say you have to watch who tell a story and how they tell it. So, and I shared both of the writings where you do, and I got good feedback, and that was primarily, somebodies have to write for we stories and tell for we stories, because over a period of time, if all people that listen to that state, one media house, and in both instances, they make no acknowledgement of UBAD Educational Foundation and community support. After a while, people want things that the state start this thing. You see what I mean, George? You mic they have. You mic they have. I'm not hear you.
Hello.
I hear you now.
What's up? All right, here we go. Yes, sis. Can I inject just a little bit of science in the narrative?
Yes.
What I would say is that when you talk about our history in the context of emancipation and liberation, there is recent history, and then there is prehistory. In terms of recent history, I observed this this land rights issue, and it's a very, very delicate subject in many ways. But when you speak the truth shall set you free. There are struggles going on in the South in the wake of that land rights case. And some of the struggles are that the quote-unquote Mayan people are apportioning lands that the quote-unquote non-Mayan people feel predated and they have a legitimate right to. It needs to be looked at very carefully. Why am I saying this, Yaya? Belize, one of the blessings of Belize, and I'll go back to my work colleague who is now dead, Adalbert Tucker. Adalbert Tucker felt that Belize was special. he felt that Belize was a sanctuary for humanity. And he felt that this was one of the only a few places on the planet that people of different race, color, creed, etc. can live together. And we have been living together in relative harmony. And so when you have a kind of Mayan line right case that is a potential instrument of division, I don't know that that's a part of the history that we should be proud of. I believe that before you're a Mayan, you're a Belizean. And what I believe has happened to some extent is that the cruelty associated with the indigenous versus the colonizers in North America, specifically in the United States, they have used that narrative to say that the Mayans in Belize were dispossessed and the Mayans in Belize to some extent were persecuted, which is obviously not so. All right? Just like how the quote-unquote Caribs found a home in Belize, the Mayans throughout, and you talked about the Yucatan peoples that came in the north, the ones in the south and in the west basically came from across the border in Guatemala.
Wait, George. Now, one of the issues we have is because we not studied together and have reasoning based on evidence, one number away speak generally. The Maya people win the case. They win it because they provide the evidence that they were here before the colonizer came. Now that just evidence. Now I push back on what you say. Columbus make people Belizean now a nationality because then decide to put up borders and set a certain name. I don't want spirit having an African woman experience. I very clear who me. So your nationality and your identity could be the same, but Maya people, indigenous people, always maintain their indigenousness. Well, so I agree that there's an issue down south, but there's an issue because of lack of knowledge. The state had a duty for a public awareness campaign for shared knowledge. It not end up good, you know.
Let me say that I am from the west of this country. The south, me never gone south to me about 30 years old. I have been south over the last couple of years, and I saw what the tension is. And even on this radio station, people are calling in to register the same sentiment that I just said, where people feel that at some point there has to be a limit to that which the quote-unquote Mayans in the south would be claiming, because the case has basically said that what you now need to do is to decide how you will implement this judgment. And this judgment has in its wake that you need to demarcate that which would be land that would be apportioned to the quote-unquote Mayans. You know what they said is, you know that if me and you go visit Ancestry.com, man, give a short story again. You know you got Mayan blood in you. I feel like 99.99% you got Mayan blood in you. My paternal grandfather came from Nicaragua, lived in Honduras for a while, and then he came to Belize. That man, that we used to call him white man, quote unquote mosquito Indian, indigenous, right? My maternal grandmother, Ostakia Armstrong, came from Belize, from Guatemala, migrated into Belize via Bolitri. My maternal grandmother was about 4 feet tall. She was as close to a Mayan Indian as you can get. She identified as a Mayan Indian. So when you are looking at an outcome that says we need to demarcate and apportion some aspect of Belize for Mayans, then I see what it takes.
No, another text because this is
how do
why
you
I'm
exclude
saying to
me,
you, George, and to
how do you
listeners.
exclude me? Yeah. Because I am walking around with 1/8 of the genes that my grandmother carried. I am walking around with 1/8 of the genes that my paternal grandfather carried. So at what point do you draw the line and say that you're not Mayan enough to inherit or to be a part of the grand apportioning of the Toledo district? So I think that I will have, and I'm trying to say this delicately. There has to be great thought and conversations, as you have said, in terms of these matters. I can recall, and again, I hope I'm not stepping out of bounds, but I can recall where a young man was trussed up, a black African dude like me, was trussed up by the Mayans and marched, essentially bound, because he had a Mayan wife in the South. You see, you see the point that I'm making? Yeah.
George, I'm not
these
saying...
are very delicate issues.
I'm not saying that prejudice and discrimination does not exist within the Maya people. What I am saying is, cooler head needs to prevail based on evidence. Be very clear. The indigenous people who came from the Mosquito Shore that we call Waika were not Maya people. And that's why I'm going to look for the evidence. Again, this come back to African people, I believe. Because I think it was like in December, and I've had this professor on Sunday Review, and now a big thing, that in Christmas of 1821, over 90 enslaved people approached the British superintendent of Belize, George Arthur, for petition and freedom. Because they observed that the African people enslaved, and that they enslaved them because they mixed with African and indigenous people from the Mosquito Shore area. So in the article where I did look for, where we call Waika people, that because then they explain the different indigenous people from that area, and one of the group of people, now the only way they come enslaved them is because they look African. They might have different texture here, but that because they look black while they enslaved them. Let's be clear. These 90-something people won their freedom, then lose the legal case. Well, and I mean, a big deal because this has never happened before. But I just said to you, when we say indigenous people, we need to be clear that they have different groups of indigenous people. So Sambo, for example, that may one of the indigenous people from that area. So they had the Tawira Mosquito enslaved people. You had the I don't want to care, but I just want to make that clarification that the people in what come from the Mosquito Shore were not Maya people. No, you make one point where I never think about.
No.
I don't want to give you credit for that. I never think about one African presenting person could have Maya bloodline. And if that was taken into consideration, when they say, I don't need the Maya people and take that into consideration, especially if they have biases but people will look African. That's a valid point. I never think about it.
Well, and this is the point that I'm making, Yaya. The case, one foundation of the case was that the courts needed to recognize and make allowances for indigenous peoples. And if a part of my lineage, the Waika man who come from Nicaragua, is indigenous, then how you want to exclude me and how you want to exclude
George,
100,000 people
But from, George, I'm not saying I have the answer.
So it gets complicated. So if you want to discount the quote-unquote Mosquito Indian aspect of me, would you discount my grandmother, who is 99% Mayan?
No, I would not.
So complicated it gets?
No. So, all right, good. George, I'm conceding that I never think about that. And it is an area, and that's why I say we need to have reasonable conversation. My concern is you have groups of people where they fix on this position and they don't want to hear nothing else. I cannot have conversations with people like that. We need to be reasonable. I don't know
Well,
what will be the solution, but because one lot of we don't know the history of this country, really don't know it, we don't want to hear nothing. We don't want to hear, when the Creole want to get a lot, it's to overstand that the Maya people were here first. You cannot dispute it. They were here
well,
before the European colonizers came.
Remember, Yaya, that the entire human family derives from Africa.
I agree. They could have the region. We have the
But
world.
this is what I am saying. A part of the discrimination acts basically say that we are not African, but there is only one tribe, not even tribe. There's only one group of people that gave rise to the entire human species. You know from an evolutionary standpoint, that there has been a number of different species of men on this planet, but only one survived.
Homo
And
sapiens.
that one is
I had this conversation
Homo
Monday,
sapiens.
George.
Two, I just want to make the point, that earlier you talked about, well, history probably go back 6,000 years. Well, actually, there's mitochondrial Eve that did not come from London, did not come from Beijing, and did not come from Moscow. Mitochondrial Eve came from the plains of Africa. And mitochondrial Eve is somewhere between 200,000 and 300,000 years old. And a part of the pushback of discrimination basically say, well, there are a number of species of people, and which is true, but my Uncle Daniel and King Charles, and just about everybody that you know on this planet, they have the same great grandmother to the nth generation as me. And so when I see that tool of discrimination being wielded, I believe that it is being wielded in anger, it's being wielded in hatred, but it's not buoyed by knowledge. And I give you, 100% kudos for having me on the show to talk about these things, because people are in denial and they say, no, actually, as recent as 3,000 years ago, the average person from London was dark-skinned. The mutation that brought about, quote-unquote, white complexion is a very, very recent intervention. So why all the noise? Well, why all the noise is that us that are more highly melanized and that are blessed, we have been picked upon for various reasons, and I touched some of them. We are strong, we are smart, we are resilient, whatever. We have been persecuted for the wrong reasons. And I am saying, you see this, you talked about, I skip Patina is now. You talk about, first I heard, what you call it, sweet pepper nose. And I am, hey, you see this nose, hello, this I know a sharp. You know what this is all about? You see this lip, there's some thick lip, right? You see this complexion, This is a part of evolution. Why did it happen, Well, when you are in Central Africa, going back 10 million years, where the savannas was climate change happening, where the forest retreated and you had great savannas, one of the apes that came down from the tree began to walk upright. All right? And what has happened over time is that ape transformed into what we call the Homo gene, the Homo group, the hominid apes. And so we are just, when you look at our story as human beings, that is where we are. We come from the same place genetically. But I think that ethnicity and other factors have kind of crept in. And so you have this division among the species, but it's one species. The Mayan come from the same place where I come from, and everybody that you know came from the same place that I have come from. This complexion that I have, you know about what? When the sun hot, me not go buy no sunscreen, no.
We need to though. They do have sunscreen for melanated people. We think that we got melanin, we still need natural sunscreen.
Yeah, but Jah bless me. Jah bless me, depending on you know, Jah bless me
Yeah, yeah.
with melanin. So obviously, if you want your sunscreen, I know I use the same grade, but you know,
Yeah.
that's the part
We
of
are
it.
the original
But
sun people.
you see this lip and this nose, yeah, you know why this stick?
Why?
Because what you want to do, if the sun the beat down on
Wait,
you,
George. Wait, George. We have one call. This is
yeah,
the last call for this segment.
uh,
Carla, go ahead.
all
Quick, you
right.
got 2 minutes. Tell me.
Good morning. I really hate to interrupt the guy you have on the show. It's sounds very interesting. I interrupted him already on another show, so I'll take it quick. Yeah, yesterday you were talking about land and the legions and the land, you know. I need to call because the Minister of Lands, this Minister of Lands is amazing. I am obviously not on his party, with his party, I agree with his party, but I will tell you today, almost everybody who went to vote got a piece of paper to go and pay the $500 and get their piece of land, first time landowner. You hear, oh, they want to give me a land, where the land comes? You hear all kind of things. You know why the Guatemalans and the Salvadorians have big swaths of land? Because they don't mind go live in the leather roof map. They don't mind go live way back at Caracol. They don't care because eventually that will not be. You believe them, you know where they are? They got internet, they got light, they got water, they got what? Everything they want. And they want the minister to wake up, send the driver, go pick them up to their house, and carry them. People who come from other countries there don't need that. You know what they do? They go and they go live in the bush, in one house back out at Tripoli. And 20 years later you go back there and your jaw dropped on the ground. If you go to Bella Vista, I used to despise Bella Vista. I used to despise Banana Bank. I used to say, how come there are people come, I got this. You know what? If you go to Banana Bank today, and I realized these are hard-working people who gone back there, who took the chance of one day they're gonna life. And now if you look at how nice it is, you don't hate these people because they came here and got what they have. You choose to sit home, go party for every single pan we knock, and never get up and go. Then you look back at these people and holler, huh, the whole he just clear, what he got? Because he got up and went to work. And when there was a holiday, he didn't take it. Oh, you believe that? Oh, tomorrow holiday, I have to go to work. You understand me?
I hear you,
So,
brother.
it is not that I don't respect my believers. I will tell you what happened today. They want to sit down and they watch everything without make sense. I look God at everything without make no reason. Do you notice that Emancipation Day just left us? That's the day that they freed the slave, right? Right now, what rule they come out, what law and come out and take away freedom. We have already been freed. This 13th Amendment will take away our freedom, yeah. How much thousand Belizeans were gone out on Emancipation Day will not show up at the consultation and say, this is going to affect me. You get what I'm saying?
I hear you, brother.
This are my black people. This law no affect Chinese, Mennonite, what few Spanish people was they because they're the knucklehead. You know what affect the Indian community? You know what affect the Mayan community? You know who this law will affect? Right back at Martins, they will got the most people will be affected. Just put it in that area, that division, and nobody on Juve morning, I bet you there will be more than 10,000 black people on the streets of Belize. You understand me?
I have to go to break.
Yeah.
Huh?
I have to go to break.
All right, I was going to intervene.
I give another minute at the past break time. And George, you want to say something? Where you want to say, George?
Yeah. I just wanted to say that the narrative of this gentleman...
All right, no problem. Come back. Go ahead, George.
The narrative of this gentleman is exactly what I think is dangerous in many ways because he's generalizing. I can give you the story at Georgeville.
Wait, I have to go to break, George. When we come back, we are finished.
Black village.
Wait, George, I have to go to break, a past break. I have to come back. Break time.
All right.
Wake Up Belize Morning Vibes. George, finish up your answer. I know the call back shortly.
Yeah. I was making the point that what this caller has done, he is basically overgeneralized in terms of especially my people, the people of Afro descent and Afro identity. Because he's saying that, Belize people just, they don't want anything in terms of land. And I'm saying, no, certainly not. What he's doing, he is making it easy for the political status quo to basically say, come election time, you know what happened? We'll produce some bad man, quote unquote, 70% proof liquor, and we will have a boombox, and we will quell the crowd with that, the people of African descent. That is erroneous. What I am saying is that land is a very valuable commodity, and you can't generalize about it or overgeneralize about it. I can tell you where I was born and raised in Georgeville. When I was coming up, there were about 2 or 3 landowners that owned thousands of acres of land. But you know what the Georgeville people did? And very recently, they basically approached the government and they say, you know what, some people never had to pay taxes, etc., etc. You see all of those lands that we had no access to? We need to have access to those lands. And so if there's a story to be written, go to Georgeville and find out that somebody who grew up with no land have 30, 40 acres of land or 100 acres of land behind Georgeville. So this narrative that our native people, especially the Afro descent people, they will just stay and wait for, no, that's a false narrative. And I need for, when they say burn that out, because it's not true. What pains my heart is that what is being given to a lot of people in Belize City in terms of land is actually swamp. And I know they talk about swamp that is emergent at certain time of the year, which is dry weather. I know at 8 miles, I know it firsthand. There are tons of acres that have been given to our people where they can't access. And what will happen is that those lands will probably go back to in their natural state, or they will remain in their natural state. So it's a complicated issue, the whole issue of land. In defense of the Minister of Lands, as you know, Yaya, I volunteer with the fishers. Way back in 1992, the ex-honorable Florencio Marin basically said, you know what, poor fishermen want own land that turn F. And obviously it's across the board, Mayan people, Spanish people, Black African people. And you know what happened, Yaya? It's not happening. It has not happened since then. So we have been in contact with the minister, and the minister we're making some headway with that. So I just want to say you have to be careful.
I agree, and that's why we need to have these community conversations and be reasonably in the conversation and be willing to say, no, I never know that. I hear you. I know better now. And we could learn from anybody. We don't have conversations to prove who right and who wrong. The hope is that we have the conversations to understand one another position. You could have one position even with evidence which I don't agree with. But that's okay. The fact that you have the space to put the position forward that will matter. And we want to share this because anybody could go and go look on it. If you go up online, send it to Christy. It's called Law, Lineage, Gender, and the Lives of Enslaved Indigenous People on the Edge of the 19th Century Caribbean. The person who wrote it name, Nathaniel Millett. Caller, thanks for calling. Go ahead. Please turn down your volume for where to listen to WEPAN. Okay, go ahead and talk.
Blessed morning, sis.
Morning, brother. Tell me.
Yes, well, you know, I usually make my monthly call.
Yes.
Justice for the Ramnaris brothers, justice for Michael Williams, justice for Orlando Castellanos, justice for Farid Ahmad, and we're challenging the commissioner to take up the Farid case and bring Michelle Brown to come testify, give her the necessary protection he needs so he could get this case finished, no? Also, I never even want to call in because I really enjoy the education, the black education we received this morning. And kudos to the guy.
George Myvett is his name.
Mr. George providing the very informative things, no? I just want to say one thing because you know we promote the African family well, and if you come to Belmopan right now, I see them take interest and they fix up by the Olmec head, paint it up nice and everything, no? I just want to say one visit I made to Mexico, to one of the biggest pyramids that exist in the entire world, right? Chichen Itza. So the tour guide said something to me that can't get out of my head. The tour guide said that they did carbon dating on the Olmec heads that they found, the colossal stones that they found, and they found out that the test shows that the rocks that they were constructed out of older than any other where they around this area. So saying that we made talk about the Mayas earlier, the Mayas, they need to realize that just like Mr. Judge said, everything comes from African, you understand? And we can't fight and say Belize the phone because the history, when they teach you, when the guides, they tell you when you go to Mexico, to Chichen Itza, that when the Mayas were walking through the jungle and they stumbled upon the pyramids, where we know now at Chichen Itza and the pyramids, the Altonha, the San Antonich, the Nimlipolit, all of them, they say when they stumbled upon it, they fell to their knees. And you know what they said? Only the gods could have built the thing here and live here, and then they, in turn, re-inhabit the place. So these pyramids that the Mayas and they claim they constructed and all that, that is not so. This thing goes farther back than they. So they claim that the Belize that they have more rights over Belize, and that is not true. We, the black African people, and carbon dating also shows that our pyramids where we have there, what we call ruins, are older than the Giza, the one in Egypt. So that's something for one to listen to and swallow the pills this morning, because there are big pills for the swallow, but we have been taught a whole heap of lie to make we discredit our own self, with ancestors. We bring it to this point. So kudos to one man. Thank you for all the information on the spread and make we keep it going. Have a blessed morning, sis.
Respect, brother. Big thanks, big thanks.
Yes,
for sure, the Olmec are the foreparents of the Maya people, and their different positions on African people being in this part of the world before indigenous people, when indigenous people, depending on where you get information from. But this is where I may want to share quickly, George. It says indigenous people continue to be one significant percentage of Belize's total enslaved population. In 1823, for example, Superintendent Edward Codd estimated that the population of enslaved people in Belize was approximately 2,500 to 2,600 individuals, of whom near 1,500 are Africans and the remainder Creoles and the descendants of Indians. If one conservatively estimates that half of the 1,000 to 1,100 non-African enslaved were indigenous or of partial indigenous ancestry, then enslaved indigenous people and their descendants represented at least 20% of those held in bondage. Carla, hold on 1 second. Using the same numbers, the 95 petitioners represented approximately 17% of Belize's total population of indigenous enslaved people and around 3% of all enslaved people. So when we hear about enslaved people of Belize, we think as so 100% African or African mixed with certain European. But we don't know, and so we can't talk about the African were mixed with indigenous people from the Mosquito Shore. Carla, thanks for being patient. Go ahead.
Greetings once again, in the name of the Most High Jah.
Greetings, brother.
I agree if anybody tells me that all the races, but in this point, the regional race, which is called Maya, come from from us or have our futures blood or whatever they want to say they have. But I do not agree the opposite way. I don't want people to say, oh, you have Maya, because no, I don't have Maya. They have my melanin. They have our ancestors' blood because they came before Columbus. And as they mentioned, the Olmec, the Aztec, the Chichimec, and the Mohicans was the races in Mexico. And like the brother said, some race, I forgot which race he mentioned, the European somewhere, black, or the Jews, the original Jew. The same way, if you study the ancient Mayan people, there were nobody clear complexion. There's a book called The Black Indians, and they refer to those Mayans. Long,
very good.
People with long hair like the one in India, but they're fully 100% jet black. And even if they want the night, and my personal experience, but before I forget, the Olmec had left a head. I don't quite remember, but somewhere around in the Mayan area of Mexico, and I call it Mexico because it's not Mexico. European call it Mexico. Mexico from Mojica, originates from the Mojica tribe that was in the city of Mexico when Hernan Cortez reached and raped them and thieved them and enslaved them. Each little tongue is the name of the head, 5,000 tons in weight, meaning black head. And those indigenous people and those years, like 5,000 years ago, they had them as the black god. And when you look at this head, thick lip, flat nose.
Caller.
I wrap up my personal experience with the Maya. Huh?
Look, I find it interesting, right? That at the Mexican embassy come put one big black head in the capital of Belize. The Mexican embassy. The hell we, watch out, this is a no. That one black head, that one black face. And the Belize, we don't got nothing which show African features like that. That the Mexican have to remind we, this are one black people.
Yeah, I tell you, the head is right there in Mexico. 5,000 tons.
But in Belmopan, they have a replica of the big roundabout.
Oh, okay.
Facing the Mexican embassy.
What I want to say and wrap up, my personal experience is I lived throughout Central America, Mexico, and even South America, and all those different tribes that are all Maya, but they just have different names. They have the same stigma as the Latino people. The Indo-Latino is called Indo because they come from indigenous tribes. They look at black the same way how a lot of the Mayans that I experienced look at me. They always have some way to mock me, some way to make a joke out of me because I'm my African descendant. But all praises be to the Most High. With the knowledge I learned, which is only a drop of water in the ocean, I make them shut up their mouth. Respect, whatever.
Thanks, brother. I'm not denying that there's discrimination and biases. I'm not. With ethnic groups in Belize. In this case, we look for Maya and African descent people. George, before we go, we can't get wrong that the Maya, they win the land rights case. Yes? They win the case. They gone before a European court and they win the case. So now the state have one duty to enforce what the law say. Wake up Belize Morning Vibes, wrap up session. I can't take no more calls. Brother George gone. Okay, I can't take no more calls. I just want to wrap this up. Big thanks to Brother George Myvett. The conversation going in a different direction, but was a good conversation. Thanks to the callers who called in. I just want to share quickly so that Belizeans have more knowledge about indigenous people from what we know as the Mosquito Shore. So this article we are telling about law, lineage, gender, and the lives of enslaved indigenous people on the edge of the 19th century Caribbean by Nathaniel Millett. It shared that as Christmas 1821 get near, more than 90 enslaved people approached the British superintendent of Belize, Colonel George Arthur, a petitioner for their freedom. Officially tolerated by the Spanish Empire since the late 18th century, British settlers, Africans, indigenous people, and mixed-race individuals participate in our extraction economy that revolve around mahogany cutting the Belize. This stretch of the Caribbean, Central America was not, however, the initial scene of enslavement. George said he didn't see himself on the screen for many of the freedom seekers of 1821. Come in, George. Instead, make I just finish this up and then I'll get the mic to George. Instead, these men and women, or one or more of their ancestors, first become enslaved on the Mosquito Shore, which is situated along the Caribbean coast of today eastern Nicaragua and Honduras. The Mosquito Shore witnessed more English activity beginning in the first half of the 17th century, like 1600. It was contested by Spain. The Mosquito Shore never became a formal British colony. However, instead under the watchful eye of officials at Jamaica, after the mid-18th century, so after 1750, one local superintendent, British subjects, free people of color, and the enslaved established settlements in that area for extract resources, agriculture, and trade. The Tawira mosquito concentrated in the south and identifying as indigenous descended, and Sambo mosquitoes identifying as Afro-indigenous and based primarily in the north, wielding much geopolitical and economic power across the Mosquito Shore of Central America. I mean, in accordance with the 1786 Convention of London, the Spanish took formal control of the Mosquito Shore in 1787, resulting in the evacuation of 2,214 people that Belize, of whom nearly 1,700 were enslaved, including many of the petitioners of some of the fair bearers. So there are 95 people who were eventually free. They recognize that in a European mindset, African people enslaved. And then they say, they know they have indigenous blood in there. And so, and they have the original document. When this one come forward and said, George Granny, me know Herman Granny, and Herman Granny, me know so and so. And based on those oral and written records, then people, again, they win the legal case, but they free them because they make the point that they're never 100% African. And because they're never 100% African, they had a right to be free. You see how the thing come full circle, George? Wrap up, we have to go.
Always an honor to be in the WUB. I think that we have, to a large extent, flagged the trials and tribulations of people of Black ancestry in Belize. What we haven't talked about much is the solution side of it. I see obviously the glass as half full, and I believe that Black people in Belize, to a large extent, have been reduced to a consumer block. And that in and of itself is not bad, because the almighty dollar in your hand could be a source of tremendous power. It's a conversation that needs a part two, at least a part two. And I am hopeful, that there will be the space for us to carry on this conversation, to round out some of the points that need to be made, to cross some of the T's and dot some of the I's.
Respect, George.
Good morning, Belize.
Big thanks, George Myvett. We have to wrap up shop. When I come in this morning, Roger, rapper, Rushford, I'm at the security. Who does security? I guess Shane Flowers? Shane at the security. Here at XTV, we have Krista Flowers as the technical director, Harlan Wagner as the chief engineer. Downstairs at Crum Radio, we have Larry Guerrero, known as Larry G. We want to thank everybody. We call, we text, we share the Zoom link, not the Zoom link, we share the Facebook link, we share the YouTube link. This show on repeat at 3:30 this evening on the local XTV channel. Remember to share the links. This is how we share knowledge, and with more knowledge, we're in our position to make more informed decisions in our we best interest. Give thanks to everybody. We're lucky for the 3 days we're hosts, and Brother Noor Muhammad should be back tomorrow. And when you make good choices, be intentional for find joy in our life today. I'm a sister from Atlanta. We're tuning in this morning. Thanks. One love. Honor the people and save the people.